I was too scared. I couldn't even say the word sleep. I couldn't even talk about sleep. Like if somebody asked me, how'd you sleep last night? It would anger me. And of course I wouldn't show that to the person because they didn't do anything wrong. It's my own stuff, but it would anger me and I would change the conversation immediately. It just feels like as soon as I close my eyes, there's all these just boom, boom, you're not going to sleep. You're not going to sleep. And that's what it felt like. And of course, the frustration was there. Then it, anger. And, as a lot of people, I'm very type A. I like to control as much as I can. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am not in control right now. And I am used to controlling every facet of my life. So I remember it. It was one Saturday. I was sitting there and I was just like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. I got to figure this out. I came across you on YouTube, and I don't remember the specific video, but it just resonated with me. It just made sense. And the way you deliver information, your demeanor, there's so much in the way that you say things, right? A lot of you hear it all the time. It's not what we say, it's how we say it. And you deliver it in a way that's just so kind, in a really loving way, in a way that makes people feel comfortable. So immediately I started consuming your content and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Found your book. I'm like, oh, set it and forget it. Sat down, read that in one go on that Saturday. And I was like, oh my goodness, gas break. Like, this is just anxiety. This is just my body scared. And I've worked myself up to this point. Like, oh my goodness, I just need to relax. Okay. So literally that night I was still taking the melatonins and the NyQuil and the this and the that. And I just tossed it. I was like, I'm just not going to take this tonight. I'm just going to lay here and whatever happens, happens. And I slept and I was like, oh my goodness, like from all this to just reading a book, understanding it, the math equation just got solved essentially. And I can just let this go and sleep. And of course it's not as easy to just let it go. But I slept that night and I was like, oh my goodness, this gives me so much hope.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to yet another really special Talking Insomnia episode. Super excited to have Jeffrey with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Daniel. How are you today? I'm so happy to be here.
I'm very good, and I'm so glad you're here today as well. And just a little bit of info for people tuning in here. You and I actually had a call, I think it was probably more than a year ago, so I know you from then. And apart from that, were you part of any of our programs, or you just tuned into our channel and whatnot?
Yeah, so I was not a part of any of the programs. I found the channel on a whim, and it's well, the story is long and windy and it twists around a little bit, but eventually when I found you, that was when the real healing started to begin.
Amazing, and which we want to hear all about, of course. But actually, that long and winding road. Let's start from the very beginning. How did you start having trouble sleeping?
Yeah, so there was a point, it was 2017. That's one thing I see in here. You can tell how hard it hits people because everyone remembers when it happened. And it was 2017. I had a lot going on at the time with work, with, I was a competitive power lifter, which and at the same time, we were potentially moving. And so there was a lot on the plate. I was really nervous about the move. I wasn't sure if it was the right thing or not. And we had actually gone to North Carolina from California to look at some places. And the night before we went home, I just didn't sleep. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And I had noticed a little bit of anxiety over the past couple of days before that, which I had never really dealt with, or I did earlier in life, but I hadn't dealt with it in a long time. And so I did not sleep that night. And we flew back the next day or the next morning where we had to get up really early. And I just kept thinking about it. And I was like, man, what's going on? Why do I keep thinking about sleep? I need to go take a nap when I get home, which was obviously, not the best choice at the time, because now you're trying to force yourself to sleep when you can't control it. And that became the long, windy road of having sleep issues. And what I didn't realize is that I also have OCD. So when that component came in, I was like, oh, okay, now I'm starting to really understand what's going on. But yeah, it was from that first day, it just spiraled. It just went 100%. And, again, at the time, being a competitive power lifter, we took that very, very serious. So we were training for, very heavy numbers. And I was like, man, I need to recover. How am I going to recover? How am I going to do all this stuff if I can't recover? And so that was constantly on my head. And that was where the spiral just kind of went out of control. And, just days of what I felt were not sleeping. I understand now there was probably hypersleep there. My body was probably getting what it needed, but I did not know that. And it's all in the mental, as you always talk about. So that was how it all began.
Thanks for sharing this. And so again, you're flying back, to California. You're thinking, gotta take a nap. And what happened? Did you actually lay down to take a nap and it didn't happen? And that kind of really frazzled you?
Yeah, I think that was the hardest part for me. And when thoughts come up, it's still that. What I eventually realized was hyper arousal, but what myself and I know others have referred to as forgetting how to fall asleep. That was how I was explaining it to people. I'm like, man, it's like I forget. Like I don't know how I could forget. I don't know what I forgot, but it just feels like as soon as I close my eyes, there's all these just boom, boom, you're not going to sleep. You're not going to sleep. And that's what it felt like. And of course, the frustration was there. Then it, anger. And, as a lot of people, I'm very type A. I like to control as much as I can. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am not in control right now. And I am used to controlling every facet of my life. So, oh my goodness, everything's spinning. And that was kind of the thought process through it.
Totally understand. And what were the things that you started doing there, like right off the bat, to try to have control?
Yeah. So the sleep efforts began in it just went off the rails. It was you name it, the melatonin, the magnesium. I did eventually go to THC, and I got a little bit of rest at some points, but again, now I know why the reason I slept sometimes and sometimes didn't. But yeah, it was, man. And again, with OCD. So it was a lot of like, oh my goodness, if I don't touch this thing, or if I touch this thing that many times. So that was a really big component of it as well. So it was kind of just everything mixing together, fighting together, and not really knowing what the overall road was to get out of that. But yeah, the sleep efforts, I mean, we see it all the time. It's NyQuil, it's ZQuil. I did go to alcohol at one point because I realized, oh, this is putting me out. And again, I keep saying it because it's just the realizations are so amazing when you go, oh, it's just because I wasn't thinking about it because I was drunk and I didn't think about anything, and that's why I fell asleep. So anything I could use to try to find the answer. And that's what it felt like. Like I was trying to solve this crazy math equation that just kept going and going and going and going. And I could not solve it. I could not figure it out. And that just caused a lot of chaos for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you describe it very, very vividly and very well. We kind of all there with you now in that very difficult time. And in terms of like the obligations you had to do, work, etc., how did that go?
Yeah. So, I did it. I got through it. I white knuckled everything I had to do. At the time, like I said, I was powerlifting. I did not compete in that time frame. I stayed. I continued to train. Of course, it was a very serious thing. So I was still there with all my teammates and helping them out and coaching and whatnot. But it was difficult. It was white knuckling through. But my job, I was a general manager at a medical device company, and I ran everything in California. So it was, hey, I luckily was able to make my own schedule. I luckily was able to, put things where I felt that they would be the best in my day, which a lot of times turned out to be later in the day. But I got through it. My mindset is I just got to keep going no matter what it is. But it was a struggle. It was a struggle. And I'm so happy I found you.
Yes, and we'll get to that point, of course, when things start turning around. But staying in this kind of difficult stage a little longer, now you're in this place where like you're your thought process all revolving around sleep. You're very anxious about it, but you're still kind of muddling through, which I always like to point out, because people often ask you like, hey Daniel, how is it possible? Like, how do people go through this? And the answer I get from you is the same way I always get: somehow we can muddle through. So just a little commentary for people in the audience there. But you're in this kind of difficult place, and trying all these things, nothing is helping. What is the kind of next thing that happens, and how long is this phase, if you will?
Yeah. So at this point, I go to my doctor, and I do have a very, very good relationship with my doctor. I've been with him ever since I moved to California about 13, 14 years ago. And I believe he put me on the trazodone. It was the trazodone. And then there was another medication that was gosh, I forget what it was, but it was like a stronger allergy type of medication. And but he didn't want to give me benzos or anything like that, and I really didn't want any of that. But of course, it's, nothing actually makes us sleep, so I would take the stuff, and it was more, it didn't give me any relief, like, oh, it's going to help me sleep. It was more like, oh, is this going to beat whatever's going on in my head? Like, who's going to win the fight tonight? That was kind of where my head went with it. So, of course, that becomes more frustrating because we're trying more things and those things aren't working. You think you figure it out, and then you go, oh, well, that clearly wasn't the thing. So it continued for a long time like that. And then, after a while, maybe after about a year and a half, it just it didn't settle. It was always in the back of my head. But I did start to sleep a little bit better. And I don't know what that reason was. I don't know why. I would tell myself things. I would write things down when I saw something that caught my eye. I started to get a sneaking suspicion that it might be OCD, but I was too scared at the time to really truly take a look under the hood. And I like to admit that. And I tell everyone that, because I'm like, man, I wish I would have really gone for it and looked under the hood at that point. But honestly, that was, when I first started, like I said, 2017. And I've never seen any content like yours. And I think you just started 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. 2018, actually. Yeah.
So there wasn't even information out there like this. And again, I know we'll get there. And I said this to you many times when we were just talking, but I'm just like, man, this is so important what you are doing. It literally saves lives. So, but yeah, so it was, I started sleeping a little bit, but it was always in the back of my head. Like if there was a trip, we were not leaving. That flight could be 5 a.m. The next one could be 9 p.m. We're on the 9 p.m. one. But wait a second, then we'd be flying overnight. So no, we're not on the 9 p.m. one. We're going to look for a flight the next day. So it really controlled my life in that sense. It slowed me down a lot in the sense that I'm a really active person. I'm a really busy person. I like being out there. I like doing things. I like accomplishing things. And I was very, very scared to commit to things. And that was always probably my strongest suit. When I started powerlifting, it was like, all right, I know if I just come in here, I put in the time, I do the things, I commit to this, I know that I'll get to where I want to get to, because I've always been a person that's going to put in the work, and I don't ever question that. But when I started questioning my ability to show up and my ability to commit, that's when things started really messing with me. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't even be the person that I am, or be the person that I want to become, because I can't attack these things. Because man, what if this opportunity comes up and oh my goodness, I stop sleeping, and my mind starts twisting out with anxiety. And so it was a lot of that was really frustrating. Again, kept white knuckling through, but we'll get there. I know in the thing, I don't want to jump too far, but man, when I came out of it, that was the biggest thing that was noticeable to me, and just amazing.
Yeah. And yeah, so at this point, there's this other struggle that is also very common, the sense of like, I'm not even myself again, like, or anymore, like, who am I? Like, I've lost the sense of our own, our own self in a way, which I think is so helpful to bring up, because I hear that from a lot of people in the community. And again, now we're maybe a year and a half or so into your story, and I'm just going to ask you, like, what happens next?
Yeah, so I just kind of keep white knuckling through. Some nights are okay, some nights aren't great. Some weeks it's hitting me harder than other weeks, and it what happened when it really hit me again, and where I really feel like it hit me just as much as it did when it first hit me in 2017, was about a year, or we were just getting into October. So it was about a year ago, and maybe about a year and 2 months ago, and started doing some hypnotherapy, and my head just started going
And
like,
sorry, was this for sleep or for something
yes,
else?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
specifically, I did it for sleep. And so we started doing that, and it just started playing with the anxiety. My like, oh my goodness, is this gonna make my brain think that I
And
can't?
by the way, just for context, so people know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just a few words on what is hypnotherapy, or what did it look like?
Oh gosh. So essentially getting into the subconscious to try to make the brain believe, what you want it to believe as opposed to what it's believing. That's not a great definition, but that's just kind of how I see it, getting into the subconscious and trying to change some of that programming that's been in there for years. So as we started doing that, I started just thinking about it and going, oh my goodness, is this going to teach my brain not to sleep? Is it going to teach this? Is it going to do that? Just the wild thoughts that start to spiral out of control. And so it started really, really kicking up for me. And that I called it the thought of forgetting to fall asleep, that started coming back. So I started having a few nights here and there of not sleeping. And, at its peak, it was, I mean, like I said, it felt like there were days where I didn't sleep, and it was the falling asleep and the falling back asleep. But when I started doing the hypnotherapy, it started coming back. And that's where I was like, all right, I am, 42 years old. I need to figure this out. This has been going on for this long. There's something happening. And, that's how I attack the rest of my life, is if something's going on, go find the information that's gonna help you. And go find the people that are gonna help you. And that's when I started kind of going down a little rabbit hole on YouTube. I didn't really go and read when it first started happening. I was too scared. I couldn't even say the word sleep. I couldn't even talk about sleep. Like if somebody asked me, "How'd you sleep last night?" It would anger me, and of course, I wouldn't show that to the person because they didn't do anything wrong. It's my own stuff, but it would anger me, and I would change the conversation immediately. So I remember it. It was one Saturday. I was sitting there, and I was just like, "Oh gosh, I don't know what to do. I got to figure this out." And I came across you. I came across you on YouTube, and I don't remember the specific video, but it just resonated with me. It just made sense, and the way you deliver information, your demeanor. There's so much in the way that you say things, right? A lot of you hear it all the time. It's not what we say; it's how we say it, and you deliver it in a way that's just so kind, in a really loving way, in a way that makes people feel comfortable. So immediately I started consuming your content, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Found your book. I'm like, oh, Set It and Forget It. Sat down, read that in one go on that Saturday. And I was like, oh my goodness, gas break. Like, this is just anxiety. This is just my body scared. And I've worked myself up to this point. Like, oh my goodness, I just need to relax. Okay. So literally that I was still taking the melatonins and the NyQuil and the this and the that. And I just like tossed it. I was like, I'm just not going to take this tonight. I'm just going to lay here and whatever happens, happens. And I slept, and I was like, oh my goodness, like from all this to just reading a book, understanding it, the math equation just got solved essentially. And I can just let this go and sleep. And of course, it's not as easy to just let it go. But I slept that night, and I was like, oh my goodness, this gives me so much hope. And this is really what it is. And I'm already a very inquisitive, very curious person who likes to get into the meat and potatoes on things and really understand how things work. So man, that was just I just wanted to keep consuming. So I read that. I got your other book, Why We Don't Sleep. I thought that was an amazing book. And I just kept consuming your content. And at the same time, I said, okay, I'm pretty sure now that this is also OCD. And, I'd already had a very strong suspicion and believed that's what it was. But I said, okay, it's time to take a look at this. And, so I'd been seeing a lot of ads for an OCD therapy site called NoCD. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to get into this. So I called them, started talking to them, and set up an appointment with one of their OCD therapists, and kind of went from there. And it was all your content and doing the exposures. And your content was 99% of my exposures. Because again, like I said, it was like I didn't even want to talk about sleep. You brought it was hard for me to have the conversation with the OCD therapist in the beginning, even just saying the word, which was just so wild to me. And now we're in a point where I'm understanding it. I've been, knock on wood, sleeping well for a while now. Probably when I say sleeping well, I mean without the consistent anxiety, and of course sleeping through the night. But it's probably been about 7 or 8 months now to where the anxiety kicked down, and it's just like I'm normal. I can do all the things I want to do. I don't feel scared that if I sign up for something or go do something, that there's going to be a chance that I won't be able to do it. And maybe it's because I'm confident in my sleep now, but also because, hey, I learned that when our body needs those reserves, it's going to put those reserves where they need to be, and that's okay. So that was probably one of my biggest takeaways, is that whenever you go to do something, your body knows, your body's smart. It's going to give you the reserves you need to take care of what you need to take care of, whether that's sports, whether that's business, whether that's whatever it is. Your body's going to come through for you at the end.
Yeah, wow. It's amazing. So nice to hear this. And just to comment on what you said here lastly, mainly for the people tuning in here, on the topic of confidence, that it's so nice when we see that there is nothing wrong with us. We have kind of the confidence that there's nothing wrong with us. But you also mentioned another version of confidence, which is like you had seen kind of the resilience we humans have. So in a way, you can say that you also have the confidence that if I don't sleep, I'll be okay. And that confidence is also so helpful, because then it takes away so much of the performance anxiety, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was a big piece of what it did. Exactly. It was just take away that performance anxiety, because, hey, I'm going to be fine no matter what. And it was, like I said, a very long, twisty, windy road. I went to all those places that I've heard people speak about. I was at a point a few times where I was like, I just don't want to be here anymore. Like, this is like, what am I, like, I'm never going to figure this out. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I say that very specifically because I heard that in people's stories and went, oh my goodness. All right. They were where I was, and they got out of it. So just keep doing the work. Just keep listening to Daniel. That's what I'll say. And eventually your mind has to learn, because that's what it is. This isn't a subjective thing. And that's what I started to recognize was, I went, oh, well, is this the way? And I knew it was, but it was just my brain playing tricks on me. Right. And I was like, no, this is literally the objective truth of what is going on here. So there's nothing else to look for. This is what it is. And just keep doing the work and keep understanding it, keep learning it more, and eventually help more people yourself with it. So
absolutely. Now I was just thinking, when you talked about how there was a point where you didn't even want to say the word sleep, and here you are, like, talking to hundreds of people about sleep and about insomnia. That shows an incredible transformation. And I think I hope that brings so much hope to people who now at this point are where you were, like they don't even want to talk about it, et cetera, et cetera. But I also want to ask, from that, from the time you kind of found the channel, you read Set It and Forget It, you were really seeing things clearly, and things were getting easier for you. Was your journey from then one of, like, initially there was kind of a lot of yo-yoing or speed bumps, or not so much? What was it like?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking about this last night, and I think you're going to help me flush that out, actually, because I don't really know. When it started getting better, speed bumps, Are they more so? My understanding of a speed bump is when you're having more trouble actually sleeping, or is it even the anxiety counts as the speed bump? Is it specifically objective towards sleeping?
Yeah, I really think of it as like when we have more struggle, like more a struggle with insomnia after we have started to understand and learn. So if somebody is sleeping but they're still kind of really have moments when they're really scared, to me that's also a speed bump. So it's
Okay,
not
okay,
necessarily about the
okay,
sleep.
okay. So I slept like I think there was maybe one or two nights throughout the past 8 or 9 months that I didn't get a little bit of sleep, but it didn't freak me out or anything. Um, but the anxiety kind of goes back and went back and forth a little bit for a while, going, okay, I think everything's good, but it was more the questioning myself, like, okay, I know all the things, I think everything's good, but I still slept, and that has slowly weaned away. And of course, there's still days where my brain just goes, "Hey, what about this?" And I go, "Oh yeah, what about that?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, there's nothing there. Stop." So it's just a reminder over and over of telling myself that. Then eventually, your brain starts to learn, right, when you don't pay attention to it, and just let it go. But before that, though, I felt like that was the time where I really had no education and had no idea what, why, how. So there were definitely tons of speed bumps at that point, just not understanding what was going on. Again, though, as I've started to learn the information, and I'll be honest, that scared me a little bit too, where I was like, oh my goodness, am I supposed to have speed bumps? Are they now going to show up like a year later? Because I didn't, but I think I understand this. Like, what's going on? But knock on wood, it's been pretty good.
Yeah. I would say the one thing where I would say, just to stay on kind of like the terminology and explaining that to the audience and everyone, is that when you had like the ups and downs that happened before you started learning, to me
Yeah.
that's not speed bumps. That's
Okay.
just like that's
Okay.
just part of the struggle. Just
Okay.
speed bump to me is kind of like when we actually start understanding and learning and things get easier for us, and we then have some struggle. That's like the speed bump, because like the journey has begun, if you will.
That makes
Um,
complete sense. Thank you for explaining that. Yeah. So some anxiety, but for the most part, it was pretty good. And I mean, I've heard you talk about it, but what do you see in people? Because I know a lot of people have speed bumps, but some don't. What would you say to me when I tell you that and go, well, okay, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think I'll get
yeah, that's a nice question, and very valuable, I think, hopefully for you and for everybody tuning in as well. I would say this, that it sounds kind of cliche, but I think it's so true that everybody's journey is
Yeah.
different. It really is.
Yeah.
And I would say that, there are some people who, like you, find kind of our teaching and things click pretty quickly and things get easier fairly easily. And there isn't that much of the kind of the big speed bumps that happen. But I'd say most people that I work with, at least, they have more of the, like, couple of weeks, like things get easy, and then there was kind of a couple of days where there was really frazzled and having trouble again, and things get easier. A little bit more of the back and forth.
Yeah.
And I always say that you can always learn from these speed bumps. You can always find something that, oh, I was scared of that, or no, aha, that led to that effort. Oh, I was trying to control again. You can always learn from them, right? But to somebody who's like, I didn't really have any big speed bumps, like, do I need one? Should I have one? I would say not at all. Like, things just unfold for us. And if you happen to have a speed bump, then you can be like, oh, well, it's not what I wanted, but here it is, and I can learn from it. And if it doesn't happen, then that's nice too, like, so that's how I say it.
I love how I don't want to get any names wrong. I believe it's Christian
Yeah,
Coach.
Christian, yes.
uh, he said that he started to welcome the speed bumps because he looked at it as a way to continue teaching his brain. And I was like, oh, that's a really good way to look at that and think about that. So that was actually really helpful for me. I was watching
Now
that. So
that's yeah, he's great, Christian. I'm so glad you picked that up. And just one more thing on this topic that for anyone out there, you know sometimes people ask me things like, hey, Daniel, like, I understand that to be less anxious, I want to like face my anxiety and kind of sit with it and not try to escape it. So, But nowadays, I'm not so anxious. Should I like make myself anxious so I can face it?
Right.
So and I'm like, no, 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 you don't need to do anything. Like life in itself, it gives us everything we need just by virtue of living. Every day we're a little bit anxious, a little bit scared or something like that. And that's our opportunity, right? So we don't need to do anything. Just living our lives with this wisdom leads where we want to be.
Absolutely.
And one question I had for you was actually, there's a couple more questions I have for you. One is when you booked a call with me, I don't do one-on-one calls anymore, but I did at that point, and you booked a call with me. Was that, did you have, I don't remember the details of it, but was it mainly to kind of like just connect with me and talk with me, or did you have, you didn't have so much trouble then, right?
No, I wanted to connect with you and have a conversation with you. You know, I'm a coach. I'm a coach myself, strength coach in the gym, and I love having what I refer to as high level coaching conversations. Like I like talking to other coaches and understanding what they're doing, and if they're doing something that's amazing, like you were doing, I was like, I just really want to connect with this gentleman and have a conversation with him, and just you know, I like networking, connecting, and meeting new people, and you know, so that was why I reached out to you. I look for, like I said, when I'm looking for information, I try to decipher who's that top person in that field that I can learn from and reach out to. And so that was it. I was just like, I need to find a way to reach out and have a conversation with this guy, because what he's doing is amazing. And really, truly, I'm not over exaggerating when I say this. You saved my life. Like your information saved my life. Like it's amazing. It's you know, you're a very humble, very, very kind person. And it is just know what you're doing is amazing. Like it's extremely important, because you know where those minds, where the thoughts can go and get twisted and whatnot. So thank you for everything you do.
Anytime. And you know, I wrote a newsletter a couple of months ago where I talked about like our space, like, you know, coaching within our space. And I said that the currency in our space isn't actually, you know, dollars or cents or whatnot. It's what I call YCML, like YCML, which stands for you changed my life. Like anytime somebody says like you changed my life, that's like the true currency in our ecosystem. And you just gave me an YCML, so that's super, super nice.
Oh, great, that's awesome.
But yes, one more thing I thought maybe you could really shed some light on is like you also realized that there was like this OCD aspect to this. And you sought, you had, some visits with this NoCD company.
Yep.
What were some kind of real takeaways? So what did you learn there that might be helpful to share?
So actually a little bit of what we were just talking about, the exposure to fear for someone with OCD, that can be an important thing. So what we really talked about, and it's just what it is the exposure and the education. You expose yourself to it, and obviously it just starts becoming like, oh, okay, well, this is what this is. You're seeing it every day. It's starting to become a normal thing. Your brain's starting to understand it's not a threat. And then the education piece, those two things together, because I mean, where does fear come from? Fear can come from many places, but certainly a lack of knowledge, or thinking that something is one way when it's really another way. So as I started learning that, and I was having these conversations with my OCD therapist about the education. And once I started going deeper on that, it just, of course, made the exposures even easier, because I was starting to understand that, okay, this isn't like some crazy thing in the universe that's making me like it's crazy where the brain can go and think about things, and why is this happening, and what's going on? Am I going crazy? But it was the exposures were the biggest thing. It's not like a regular therapy talk, and I like you can talk to them about anything, but it's more about going, okay, what is the thing that's bothering you, and what are the craziest, scariest things that we can go find and watch or read. And it was difficult in the beginning, even with the knowledge, just because it was so many years of just embedding that negativity of sleep in my head. But over time, you know, we can't explain how it happens, but the brain it learns. Neuroplasticity is real. The adult mind can change, and we've seen it with so many people that you've worked with and that you've helped. So it was really the exposure to the sleep stuff, and again through your stuff, because there's a great many insomnia stories where you hear the beginning like we're doing right now, then you hear in the end where it started to get better. And then again, continuing to learn and just read and watch the stories. I've watched everything on your channel. I've literally watched every single video. And now it's more just like, I want to learn it. I do still treat it as an exposure. And I still do watch stuff every single day, but it's not revving me up. I'm just learning things. I'm going, oh, well, that's interesting. I want to learn that. I want to understand that. And I still keep one OCD session on the books a month. Just they're there just in case, have that conversation, check in. I think that's a big thing that you call it closing the hood. Is I think we do that with a lot of things. We do something, we go, okay, it's good. Now there's nothing more to do. And it's like, well, the brain is a complicated thing. We need to keep reteaching it and reteaching it and reteaching it and reteaching it. So, that's what, yeah.
No, thanks for sharing all this. And, at some point, it's almost like it becomes, okay, first we have a struggle, and then we want to like really teach the brain and educate ourselves so that our struggle phase and things get easier for us. But then at some point, it almost shifts to like, now I want to keep learning just for enrichment and just for understanding myself more and things of that nature, which is a journey that never ends, so that's
and I'll tell you, for me too, it came because I was like, man, sleep is a huge piece of, that they talk about in performance all the time. I'm not with the fear marketing. I hate all that stuff. Of course, I've read it in your books and whatnot. But I just look at it as I have athletes, and now I have something else that I can help them with if they're struggling with it.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I just keep trying to expand my coaching bag. And that was just the thing that I was like, wow, this kind of fits in perfectly with what I do, to just kind of learn a little bit more about this and have a little bit more knowledge to help my people with that stuff if they need it as well.
Amazing. Now, my last two standard questions here that I ask everyone. One is, if you could, go back in time to when you started having trouble sleeping back in 2017 and tell yourself something, what would you pick?
Hey, there's a guy out there that's going to start putting content out in like 3 years. So be aware and wait for it. I would have told myself, just be calm. You're doing this to yourself. Like that's the biggest thing. One of the biggest things, because there were so many things that I took away from that, was that I was just making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's hard to understand at first when you say, you just have to not do anything, just don't do anything. But it is, it took me a while to afterwards even understand what that meant. Like, oh, no sleep efforts. Don't try this. Don't try that. I know that I was continually teaching the brain that, oh, that didn't work. So, things probably won't be good. I need to go find something else. And the brain's constantly searching and just asking questions. And I worked myself up through all of those efforts, and just through allowing myself to go places that weren't real. So that specifically is what I would tell myself, that, hey, you just need to calm down. This is going to pass, but you make that determination. This is on you, and you need to do that. So that was probably one of the biggest things for me.
Yeah. Wow. Very, very nicely said. And finally, you learned a lot through this journey, of leaving sleep struggles. Are the things that you learn that you feel have impacted other areas of your life?
Significantly, because when I started doing the OCD therapy, I started to recognize where that was hurting me in other aspects of my life that I didn't even realize were an issue. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay, this is affecting me here, this is affecting me here, this is affecting me here. So it allowed me to, quote unquote, level up in my life, and start to recognize places where I could work on myself more and maybe make different choices, different decisions. And so it was very helpful for just understanding myself more as a whole. And, you know, now with the ability to just go, hey, I can go do anything. Like, I've had just so many good things happen. Like, this has been like the best year. Like, I just took a new position, which I'm super excited about. I just released a children's jiu-jitsu coloring book that I was working on for a while. I just never felt like I could finish anything or get it out or anything. So that, and just building a lot of my online strength stuff right now. So it's changed my life. I mean, completely. It's night and day.
Amazing. Can't end on a nicer note. So I'll just say thanks so much, Jeffrey, for being here, be in touch. And again, thanks for sharing.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, of course.
I just want to say one thing to the community. I know that struggle. I know that struggle hard. I do all the strength training stuff. My Instagram is built through strength. I am not making a pitch here. If anyone needs help for free on anything, health related, fitness, training, just wants to chat, please just hit me up on Instagram. I will help you in any way I can. And again, that's I'm not no charge. I'm free. Like, I want to help people. This is a community that is special, is different. It's amazing what you've built, and if I can give back to anyone here in any way, I'm more than happy to do so.
Amazing. We'll put the link in the description so people can find you there. I'm sure somebody will. So with that said, again, yeah, thanks so much, Jeffrey. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good day.
They say that the best things in life are free. And I truly hope that this free video helps you rediscover something else that is free, which is peaceful sleep. If you do find our content here helpful, then please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with people, because the more views we get, the more people we reach, the more chances of changing lives we have. The thing is, leaving insomnia for good is actually so simple. You can and will rediscover a beautiful life at the end of this sleepless tunnel. So yes, please share it with people, hit the subscribe button, and you will be a big part of leading the change that we so want to see in the sleep universe. Thank you.